So you want to remember why you don't drink. So if you stop drinking because maybe you're in recovery, or maybe you're not really an alcoholic, but you feel like you're drinking a little bit more than you should for your health and you're better off without, it helps to have a support system. So either somebody there with you or somebody you can contact.
Recovery Catalyst Podcast. I'm your host, Kat York. Welcome to my little corner of the world where I invite guests to talk about their journey to recovery, be it from addiction, trauma, mental health challenges, or a combination of any and all those things. My goal is to shine a light on these difficult topics through the lens of curiosity rather than cure. The truth is, recovery is a very individual journey, and no two paths are the same. Is the author of Sober Travel Handbook, Navigating the World Alcohol-Free. She is also a travel writer and a longtime sober person who wants to help others in recovery see the world without picking up a drink. Ourselves in. I cannot wait to jump into this conversation. And with that, I will welcome Teresa.
Hey, Kat, I'm thrilled to be here. And hello,
Thank
listeners.
Thank you. So that's a brief overview of you. And I guess, is there anything you wanted to add, anything that I missed about you?
Oh, there's always endless things about anybody, but you touched on some highlights. That's great. Well, I'd say I live in Portland, Oregon with my husband and my cat. I've been sober a really long time, and I've been really lucky to get to explore lots of things, lots of different parts of life because I haven't been stuck with a drink in my hand and worried all the time about where I'm going to get the next one. So it's been very liberating. Anyone who's thinking like, oh my God, I don't know if I can put my drink down, believe me, you'll have all sorts of interesting opportunities if you do.
And just touching briefly, how long have you been a sober individual?
Oh my God. It's kind of ridiculous. It's 38 years, Kat.
Wow.
I quit when I was only 20. I wasn't of legal age, and now I'm 58. So I've had
Wow.
a full adult life. Yeah, it's been very lucky. Although sometimes I feel a little out of touch, like I'm like one of those really, really old vampires no one relates to anymore because they were born in the year 500, you know?
No, 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 no. No. No, I think that's wonderful. I mean, congratulations on that long-term sobriety, because
Oh,
that's
thanks.
not
I mean,
easy.
it's been work, but I've also been lucky and had a lot of support. So,
That's
yeah.
wonderful. That's wonderful. So I'd like to touch on a little bit on your book. And what inspired you to write a book about sober travel?
I've been a travel writer for about 15 years now. I've always been some kind of writer. I've been like a lifelong writer, but like about the last 15 years, I've been writing about travel for magazines and websites. And in this work, I end up going on like a lot of press trips and I go to conferences where I'm with other travel writers. And there is so much, there's so much of a culture of like, oh, I write about fine wines. Oh, I write about craft beers. Oh, I write about cideries, all this stuff. And I was at all these endless dinners. I'm also vegan, which is kind of a pain in the ass of these things because not only am I'm not eating the food every month, and I'm not drinking the drink. So I'm like the biggest dick in the mud to a lot of these people. So I'm just like sitting there at these endless dinners trying to be sociable and not, part of me's just like rolling my eyes like, oh my God, you're stupid wine I have to hear about. So they go on and on about being these kind of writers. And so I just started sort of saying almost as a joke, I was like, oh, well, I'm a sober travel writer, not really knowing what that even meant. So I started thinking about it more though, like what does it mean to travel through the lens of sobriety? And I wrote my first article about it maybe 7 years ago for a website called Wander with Wonder. The editor there said I could write about non-alcoholic things to do in wine country. So I wrote an article about that. And that ended up being pretty popular on her site. So it made me start to think, maybe there is an audience of people who don't drink who are interested in other things to do when they're traveling. So that's how I first started. And then I got this idea to write a whole book about it maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I wasn't sure if there was
Mm,
really the market or not. But fortunately, my publisher, Microcosm Publishing here in Portland, Oregon, where I live, they took a chance on me. And
mm.
yeah, so now I have a book out about it.
And it is a great book.
Thank
It is
you.
a great book. Because often when we think about vacation, everywhere you go, there's booze.
Mm.
Resorts, hotels, any activity. Even when we went to Cape Cod, there's the vineyards, there's a bar in every corner. And even those with good sobriety, long-term sobriety, it can be a challenge just to even attempt to stay sober, even on a weeks-long vacation.
Yeah, and even if you're sober a long time and you don't feel like you're about to drink, it can also just be an irritant. Like sometimes it just puts me in a bad mood. Like I was saying, kind of rolling my eyes with all those wine drinkers. Like every time I see these, like I fly a lot on Alaska Airlines because I live on the West Coast, and they have
Mm.
this whole program called Wine Flies Free because they want people to buy more local wine. And every time I see one of those Wine Flies Free signs, I sort of sneer at it. I'm like, well, what about my vegan ice cream? Can it fly free? And I was like,
I love that.
I just get kind of touchy a lot. And I think probably a lot of people do. Like we have to have this kind of armor around us all the time in a way, like this psychic armor to just keep living our sober lives in a culture that's so obsessed with alcohol. So I'm trying to not be like that so much because it only hurts me. Like nobody else
Right,
cares when I'll touch you about this stuff. I'm the one that has to feel crabby. But it does come
right.
up a lot when I see this constant reminders that drinking is the norm. It's annoying.
It can be. And like you said, it can be an irritant because so often I think sometimes that's all you hear about on vacations is where to get the next drink. You don't hear about like the fun activities,
Mhm.
hikes or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And so have you found places, are there places out there like resorts that are like sober or dry?
Occasionally I find some of those, yeah. So what I look for places that are some places that don't have alcohol,
Mm,
also anywhere where the main focus isn't alcohol. So there might be some alcohol around, but that's not the thing. So, like for me, a lot of wellness places or nature focused things where
mhm.
alcohol just isn't the main point, or things of like great scenic beauty or
Right,
wildlife conservation. Like none of those things are you as likely to find a bunch of drunk people because they're there for a
right.
different reason. And then just also fun things to do. Then sometimes you end up with like more family friendly stuff, like amusement parks or something. There's some amusement parks where you're not going to encounter alcohol or not much. So,
Right.
yeah, I'm just looking for those things where that's not the focus, although sometimes alcohol is present. But yeah, there's some
Right.
kind of like wellness centers where there's not alcohol served. I was at a yoga retreat in the Bahamas recently, like no
Mhm.
alcohol on campus, or Kripalu in Massachusetts. That's a big wellness one where they don't
Right.
have alcohol. So you can find some of them dotted around like that. And it is nice when you're just away from it. Or certain countries, like if you go to the Middle East, maybe not right now, but if you go to the Middle East, it's nice. It's very relaxing, and it's
Right.
mind expanding to see whole cultures where that's not the norm and they socialize without it. So I kind of like that too.
No, that is it's important to. I mean, I don't think anybody expects the world to be alcohol free, you know, but like you said, when it's so in your face all the time and you're a sober person and it's just not maybe it's not even about sobriety, you just don't want to be around it all the time.
Mhm.
Like you just want to be, maybe kind of like you said, on the sanctuaries, animals, hikes, the beach. You don't want to be just surrounded by it. It's a different culture, it's a different vibe.
Mhm.
And which kind of leads me to my next question. Like, say you go on like a trip with some friends and you're like the sober person and they're able to drink. How do you manage that kind of dynamic?
I tend to prioritize my own interests. So if it's just going to be like everyone else wants to go wine tasting, or well, first of all,
Mm,
most of my friends aren't very big drinkers. They might not all be sober, but most of them they're just not that interested. That's not their main thing. So
right,
so like when I've been on trips from usually there'll be people that only drink a little bit. So like they're going to have maybe a glass of wine with dinner or something.
right,
I don't really care. It's more like if they just wanted to go to wineries or something, and I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs, that would be a drag. Um,
right.
When I'm going on a trip, I'm usually thinking about what I want to do. And my interests these days really water focused. So I want to go places where I can go open water swimming, or I can go scuba diving,
Mm,
or I can go snorkeling,
yes,
or I can go kayaking. So those are some of the things I want
yes,
to do. So like I was on a kayak camping trip last year, and some of the people were drinking, and then some of us weren't. But again, it's like when you're real active like that, you're probably not going to drink that much. It's just going to
right.
be a couple. So that doesn't bother me. It's more like I don't want to be around people that are getting all loud and boorish because people, when they drink, they often think they're really clever and witty, but from the outside, they usually look really dumb.
No, no, I can attest to that. We're not that funny when we're as funny as we think when we're drinking, you know?
Oh man, yeah,
No.
and I mean, I was so, in my mind, I was kind of more together, but like I used to knock over bar stools that I would swear I was not within 4 feet of. I mean, that's
Yep.
how uncoordinated and out of touch I was. So I'm sure my jokes were about that funny too.
No, and I think volume control goes out the window too, you know?
Mm.
You think like you're talking like this, really you're at a much higher volume. So yeah, it can be just a kind of an unpleasant experience when you're not as funny or as quiet as you think you are often.
And if people
Um,
want to be like that, fine. That's not my
yeah,
problem.
no,
It's not where I choose to spend my time now, right now.
no, no. And um, which kind of leads me into the topic of it's eventually at some point, you're going to be on vacation and you may be offered a drink and you may be like tempted to say, oh, okay, well, just one, or it's just a sample, or it's just a shot. What are maybe some tips or ideas that you've come up with that have helped you through that obstacle?
At some point, I think I've formed a clear idea in my mind. It's sort of like a barrier that where I'm very strong in feeling like that's not for me. Just like other stuff, there might be other things in your life that are not for you.
Hmm.
Maybe part of your moral code or your strong likes or dislikes. And so somehow I was able to form that. So that's usually pretty strong where I see that and I'm just like, oh, no thanks, that's not for me.
Mm.
If you're feeling really tempted to have a drink, well, a few things like if you're in a social situation where everyone else has a drink in their hand, it is really helpful to have a kind of drink, just not an alcohol drink. And holding something and sipping something, it will cut down a lot on people
Mm.
offering you a drink. So you won't have to be so tempted all the time that they keep asking you for one. It's much easier than if you're just empty handed. And it makes other people more comfortable too, because even if they're not trying to get you drunk, maybe they just want to be hospitable and they're worried they're not being a good host because you don't have a drink. And even though that's not really your problem, like what someone else feels, it just makes things kind of easier and smoother and it stops people offering. So it's helpful to have something in your hand like that, non-alcoholic. That'll take off some of it. And I mean, I guess you want to remember why you don't drink. So if you stop drinking because maybe you're in recovery, or maybe you're not really an alcoholic, but you feel like you're drinking a little bit more than you should for your health and you're better off without, it helps to have a support system. So
Right.
either somebody there with you or somebody you can contact. Like one time I was on some kind of press trip and there was just this surprise mixology class. They're like, we're going to do some bartending now. I'm like, oh God. So um, I like immediately went in the bathroom and texted my husband, who's also a non-drinker, and I was just like, "Oh
Yeah,
God, surprise mixology class!" And he just gave me that little support, like, "Oh
yeah,
God, to hang in there, don't worry about it. Just tell him you're going to make a drink without alcohol." But just having
yeah.
that little support helps so much, whether that's a fellow non-drinker, your partner, or even somebody who drinks a little, but just as long as there's someone that supports you and your decision not to, it makes all the difference.
It does, even just having that one contact, like you reached out to your husband. Like if you
Mhm.
have a friend or a family, just like, listen, they're having this mixology class, like this is not comfortable for me. Like just give me like a little pep talk or remind me why I don't drink. Just, because that can sound fun, because it's a group
Mhm.
activity and that's a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
If you've never been put in that situation before, especially. And, you don't want to be, like you said, like the stick in the mud, being like, no, I don't, so this helps you kind of, I think, bring back a little bit of confidence in why you're not drinking,
Yeah.
you
And now
know.
that's very much I write about sober travel. So if I was in that situation then, I would say, I would just say to the person, hey, I write about sober travel, so I'd really like to participate if you can come up with some interesting thing I can mix up that has no alcohol in it.
Yeah.
Now I'm much more practiced at being upfront. It's been a
Mm,
weird transition since I started writing about sober travel because I was never really secretive about being sober, but it was not what I led with. Like I would never come
mm,
up and be like, "Hi, I'm Teresa and I'm sober." But now I'm writing about this when people say,
yeah.
"What do you write about?" So it's so much more upfront, which seemed to me a little embarrassing at first, but
Mm,
now I've kind of like gone used to it. And it's helpful, if you're someone who is able to be out front about your sobriety, it's surprising how much it helps other people who aren't. Because since I've been like this, I'm not like
mm,
now I'll get a non-alcoholic drink and I might be around a group of people who I don't know if they're drinkers or not, but someone will be like,
yeah.
"What are you drinking?" And I'll tell them, and they'll say, "I didn't know that was available." And I said, "Well, I had to ask for it." And then they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm going to go ask for that too, because I don't really want to drink alcohol right now." So, it's like
Right.
one person standing up and being like, "Yeah, not for me." It empowers other people. And so it's a really helpful thing. And it makes me feel good about helping other people by sort of just, being a model of not drinking.
That's a good point too. And plus, it's nice that that's your career too, as a sober travel writer. It
Yeah.
gives you a nice I don't want to say excuse. It's not excuse, but a nice reason. To be like, I'm exploring this side of it.
Mhm.
Without alcohol. And what has that? Were you always a sober writer, um, or was there a time when you were drinking and writing traveling at the same time?
Well, I wasn't a travel writer then, but I've also written a lot of fiction. Not that I've been very successful with it, but it has been something I've done a lot of. And
Mm,
I do remember there was a time when I was writing I'm sure it was a probably terrible novel when I was 20, and I was drinking a lot, and I lost my novel while I was drinking. And because I was so drunk, I kept going to the same three places I'd been and asking them, "Have you seen my novel? Have you seen my notebook?" And I'd go to the next one and the next one, and then come back 10 minutes later. "Have you seen it? Has it turned up?" Until I was kicked out of all three places and I never found my novel. So
Oh
there's
no.
there's some experience of being a drinking writer. Now, there's lots of famous alcoholic writers who did manage to not lose their novels and publish them, like Fitzgerald and Hemingway, tons of them. So I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not saying you can't be an alcoholic writer and be successful, but it didn't work for me.
No, no, and losing your work is never a good way to actually get it published.
No.
No, no, it is not. And um, something that you had in your book that I like, it's interesting, is how to say, and I thought this is really creative, how to say I don't drink alcohol in other languages. And I
You've
love
written
that.
about it. I had to Google all that.
No, that's really cool because that's not something I think a lot of people may actually practice or look up before they're traveling to like Mexico or wherever. And what do you think are some other phrases non-drinkers should maybe learn before they're traveling?
No, thank you.
No, like I like that.
Where's the bathroom? That doesn't have to do with alcohol. Yeah.
It's
That's another important
it's a
one.
nice escape. Like, no, thank you. Gotta go to the bathroom. No, I think that no, because I think that's important because how many times like wherever you might be traveling and you're like, oh God, how do I say no alcohol? Because the first thing that like if you go out to eat, they're gonna hand you like a drink menu.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
if you know how to say like I don't drink alcohol in Spanish, it'll make it a lot easier,
Yeah.
versus like how am I gonna struggle through this?
Yeah. And if you have it written down, you can also point at it because sometimes the pronunciation is very difficult in other languages. So you can make sure that they
Yeah.
see that. I've also done that as being a vegan, it's always trying to find the stuff that doesn't have meat, which is quite tricky sometimes.
No, it can be yeah, because you got two um yeah, that can be hard being alcohol free and as well as vegan. I can see where that would be difficult sometimes to find spaces to dine,
Yeah.
you know.
But you always want to be really polite and try to be
Mm.
grateful for what people do have and what they can offer you.
Yeah.
Because you don't want them to be spitting in your food, right?
No, no, you don't want that experience. No, that's not what we want for our vacation.
And you want to be a good guest, especially if you're
Yes.
in another country. Because I always try to remember that I'm an ambassador for my country, just even as an
Right.
individual. Like you might go places they haven't met someone from your country before, they don't get that many people like that, or they've had bad experiences. So
Right.
and being American, there's lots of ugly American stereotypes. So I want
Yeah.
to try to be grateful for whatever it is. I mean, sometimes I make like I've been in one time I was in Mexico and I
Mhm.
asked for a non-alcoholic drink, and they just kept making jokes like, oh, what, you want double the tequila? And
Oh God.
I wanted to smack them, but I was just like, no, I would like it to be alcohol free, please. Like
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, yeah, the jokes are okay, but sometimes you're like, it's funny the first time, maybe not the second or the third time.
yeah, and for me, trying to get me like making jokes about giving me alcohol is really not funny. And every
Yeah,
once in a while, someone does it, and it's really not funny to me. But I try
yeah.
to remember because I have kind of snapped people's heads off a long time ago when
Hmm.
you did that. Now I try to remember that they're probably not that aware of alcoholism. They're not really wishing me dead. They're not really,
No,
that's what I feel like. If you have something, if you, and when you think about it, if it was like a person that was off heroin, they're not going to have to
yeah,
endure all these jokes. They're not always going to be
right.
told, like, oh, well, you can just sit there and have a Diet Coke while everybody else does heroin,
Yeah,
It,
no,
people just don't take it that seriously. But, all the drugs, including alcohol, are dangerous and a lot of them can lead to death if you're not careful. So you want to kind of balance the fun of travel and going out with remembering that there is this real reality if you're a person who's in recovery and has the addiction problem.
Now, do you think there's more pressure, say, trying to network without alcohol at business events versus
For sure.
just like traveling with your friends?
Oh, for sure. There's things about business networking, and I've been through a lot of that. And part of it's real, part of it's really people making more deals and making connections drinking. And part of it's just in my head where I think that's what's going on. And then I'm feeling awkward because I'm not drinking. So we can't do
Mhm.
anything about what people are really thinking if they really do want you to drink with them. But I've been trying to work on my own awkwardness and minimize that because there were times where I was thinking people were maybe like seeing me as an outsider because I didn't drink. And then sometimes I found out later some of them weren't even drinkers themselves, but I just kind of
Right,
assumed everybody else was. So
right.
when I'm going to a business event, I have gone to a lot of business events, sober, many conferences and networking kind of things. I try to give myself some grace because I realize even after all this time, I can be uncomfortable. Now, I don't generally, it's not like I think I'm in a drink, but I just worry about feeling really left out and uncomfortable at times.
Right.
Well, I try to go to these things and tell myself, okay, I'm just going to try it. I'll stay 15 minutes and see. And if I feel really unhappy, I can always leave. But it turns out that lots of times it's perfectly fine. I have a good time. And now sometimes, I mean, sometimes I'm even the last person to leave from an event or a party. Not all the time, but sometimes. So I just try to give myself permission to leave if I need to, but to try to have the courage to go check it out and
Mhm.
to allow myself to have a good time if I can.
No, and that's important. You leave yourself an out, you show up, you have like a non-alcoholic drink in your hand. You have your support person that you can call, or maybe they're with you. So those are some good tips that can help you get through these difficult situations.
Yeah, and so I belong to this one organization called Society of American Travel Writers that I've belonged to for about 12 years now. That's one of my main professional organizations. And, over the years there were, I started out kind of like, oh, I don't always belong at these events because everyone's drinking. But then
Right.
as I started to write about sober travel, I started a sober affinity group within it. We haven't really done that much stuff, but I did get a list of names of other people who also are sober or non-drinkers for other reasons or just support the idea of alcohol-free travel. And so now when I go to these events, lots of times I know that one or two of them are going to be there, and that's really nice too, because even in a business place you might identify people of support, and it's just nice to like kind of check in with them, be like, what did you get at the bar? Oh, they have this, okay, good, I'll get one of those too, non-alcoholic thing.
Right.
It's a nice feeling of solidarity.
No, it is, and I like that you found like a little bit of support within your writing community, your travel writing community.
Mhm.
And does that make like if you have business events, do you guys like network together like at business events?
Sometimes, sometimes. Mhm.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that you have. It's that extra layer of support for you if you're going and you have another person that you can reach out to or go with.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really
And
nice.
that is nice. I like that. And there's one thing that always, when I was early in my sobriety, that was a trigger for me, and that was family events.
Oh, for sure.
More so than like vacations, or it was always like there's always that like you're some person in your family is always friction, or there's always like some really heavy drinkers, and it's like, that was very hard for me in the beginning to navigate because no didn't seem like it was a complete sentence to some people.
Mm.
And do you have any tricks or things that have worked for you in family situations?
Yeah, it can really depend on your family, and some are going to be harder to navigate than others. Um, I guess one thing would just be have an exit strategy if it gets really bad.
Exactly. Exactly.
Or give yourself permission to go for a walk, calm
Mm,
down, call somebody, maybe identify the friendliest people in your family for support. I
mm,
had one at one time, I wrote about this in my book about when my grandma died and we were real close. And we had this wake for her, and everybody and like it seemed like everybody was drinking. Like there wasn't really, for some reason there was only like a bunch of whiskey and a plate of brownies at this wake. And I was pretty new in sobriety. I'd only been sober a year or two. And I really, really wanted to drink that whiskey. I mean, my
yeah.
grandma grew up with her. We were real
Yeah.
close. And it was just super uncomfortable. So I went and I called somebody I knew who'd been helpful in the past, but I hadn't talked to for a while. And then she
Hmm.
told me, she's like, "Oh, it turned out I didn't have a drinking problem. I'm drinking again." I'm like, "Oh my God, that was no help." So I hung up from her. And then we were at my grandma's house and I went out on the porch and I was like totally freaked out. And my
Hmm.
dad came out, and my dad and I we didn't have a close relationship when I was a teenager. We had a lot of animosity and conflict, mostly because I didn't like him telling me what to do when I was, a fully grown up 14-year-old woman and he wanted to have rules. So I really thought he was a dick, you know. But at this point, on my grandma's porch, I was really desperate. So I told him
Mm,
I felt like drinking and
mm,
I was feeling really uncomfortable there. And then it was amazing to me what he did. So he
yeah.
go he goes back inside. No explanation. He's not going to give away my problem. He just says to people in this angry voice, he's like, "We're going now." And I was like, "What, Dad? No."
No, oh my God.
Like, "We're leaving." And everyone's looking at him like, "Asshole, what's his problem?"
Oh
So
my
I hope I can say that on here. And so,
No, yeah, you're fine.
but it was like as soon as he did that, and I saw how willing he was to look like a total jerk in front of everybody, not give them any reason why we were leaving, I realized how much he had my back in a way I had never in
Yeah.
my whole life understood. And my urge to drink was completely lifted. I
Yeah.
mean, for that day, it was completely lifted. And I was like, "Oh my God, Dad, I think I'm okay. We can stay." So then he was just like, "Oh, okay, we're staying."
Oh my God. That
No
was so funny.
explanation to anybody. And
Yeah.
then we stayed and I was fine. So that taught me this huge lesson that sometimes when your back's up
Mm,
against the wall, you can find support from people you didn't know you could.
yeah.
Like my dad was old school. He wasn't a drinker. I mean, he wasn't like a big drinker, but he had no
Right.
real conception of alcoholism. He
Right.
knew I had a problem and he was going to support me. So sometimes
Yeah.
support comes from really surprising places. So there have been times I've had to ask for help since when I'm in a jam and I've managed to get it.
Yeah. Something that I tried to do over the years is just like bring my own non-alcoholic stuff. Um,
Smart,
because
smart.
because sometimes like going in the fridge, or the cooler or whatever, you'll just see, and that was kind of a trigger from like opening the fridge, and it's like, oh, I can go one way or the other. And
Yeah.
so usually if I bring my own, I try very hard to stick towards like my little cooler. And
Right. Or your 64-ounce big gulp that'll last all
yes,
day. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Oh, Kathy's drinking a lot of water. Yeah, yeah, she is. Like, and so like, but it is nice to have a support person, and I'm happy that your father could be there for you when you were struggling because it can be kind of scary when you're like, I don't really, especially in a grief situation, that's hard.
Oh, you can feel so alone. Yeah. And
And that,
nowadays, I mean, that was before we had the internet. That was a long time ago.
right,
Nowadays, like, I don't think the internet is good as a real as good as a real person right there, but it could still
right,
save your life. You know, you could reach out to somebody on one of your social networks or WhatsApp or whatever
right.
and get some help in a situation like that. And that could be enough to get you through too.
That's a good idea too. Contact a friend on social media, or even just say like on social media, like I'm struggling a little bit here. And
Yeah,
sometimes just yeah, just getting like a positive message, like no, don't risk it. You know, your sobriety is too important. Can help too.
yeah.
Um, and I want to talk a little about your website, if it's okay, teresabergen.com. You have quite the extensive website. There's a lot on there.
Oh,
Um,
I've been it for a long time.
I love it because you have a bunch of other books on there. You have stuff about being a vegan. There's like a whole bunch of things that like resources you've put together for everybody.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's mostly, let's see, I'm mostly writing about like sober travel, vegan, outdoorsy stuff, some yoga. Oh, and
Hmm.
I have my quest to paddle in every U.S. state and Canadian province that I'm working on. I'm only about a third of the way through. I still have a lot of states to go, but I got into kayaking and paddleboarding maybe 10 years ago. So I'm not
Oh
super
wow,
great at it, but I just love to go out for a couple hours and paddle around on any body of water that's not too windy.
that sounds like fun. Has that been kind of like an activity that you look forward to when you're traveling?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And this is another thing I found. So when I'm traveling, because I travel by myself a lot too, and
Mhm.
that gives you lots of freedom, but it could also give you lots of temptation. So for me,
Right.
and also if you have a bunch of free time, sometimes people don't know how to fill it, especially if you first quit drinking and you used to drink a lot. So it helps to
Mm.
develop just sort of your interests, which you may or may not know right away what they are if you're used to drinking a lot. So I've tried
Right.
a lot of different things, and now I have certain things they're kind of my go-to things if I go somewhere and I have free time. And it is convenient because you don't have to think so much about like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my time? So one of those things is I always try to rent a kayak or a paddleboard if there's somewhere that's easy. And it has to be somewhere kind of easy if I'm going by myself because I'm not like, some super studly self-rescuer person. So it has to be like a pretty easy body of water if I'm going
Right.
by myself. Otherwise, I want to go with a guide.
Right.
And if there's a guided kayak, I'll go on like a guided kayak thing. So that's one of them. I love, love, love old cemeteries. So I
Mm.
like to go wander in cemeteries. I love, love, love cats. So I'm always going to cat cafes for some feline
Oh.
therapy when they're available. I'm always trying to find if there's a local vegan ice cream. Those are a few, so
Yeah.
it's nice if you sort of develop the things that you really like. And then I like old churches too. And yeah, and then you kind of have some things that you do in different places. And
No,
it's
that's good to yeah. That's good to have a plan because if you know what you want to get like brochures beforehand and try to pick out, okay, well, there's a good chance that this is going to be sober. I can stay sober here, you know, versus going here, versus like just landing yourself there and then trying to figure it all out. And because
a
wherever
little
you go
structure is
into,
valuable.
yeah, yeah. So
I
it's
like
nice to have,
having some stuff planned, and then I have a
yeah.
little free time because once you get there, you'll discover other things you didn't learn about online that you might want to do. But I think it helps a lot to have a few things to sort of anchor you in.
Do you have a favorite place that you traveled to?
Oh, that's so hard. I mean, there's so many cool places. I'll just mention one that comes to the top of my mind. Although I can't say this is my favorite, but last year, my husband and I got to go to Belize, which
Oh,
was really gorgeous. And we went to this little island called Tobacco Key. You could walk across the whole thing in like 2 minutes. And
wow.
they call it a resort, but it's kind of rustic. They're like just little cottages. Um, I mean, one of the big amenities is a dish pan where you can wash your feet off so you don't track sand. And I was like, every couple days they changed the water. That was in the big amenities. And what we could, it has them. It's the second biggest barrier reef after the one in why did I say Canada? Australia. The
Okay, that's okay. That's okay.
Canadian Barrier Reef, the Australian Great Barrier Reef. So Belize has the second biggest one. It runs along Central America.
Mm.
And so the snorkeling is fabulous and the diving. And we were able to just swim right out from Tobacco Key and find gorgeous snorkeling with like a lot of fish and really healthy corals. So that was one place I was at recently that I liked a lot.
That sounds gorgeous, actually.
Yeah.
And it's nice. I think it's nice to remember that some of the places that you visit you can enjoy them a lot more if you are sober, you know.
Oh
You
yeah,
can
I wouldn't
take
want to risk going out there because we had to swim out of ways. I mean, you don't want to do that,
yeah.
Gerard. You're putting yourself in great peril.
No, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. And you'll have better memories that way too and take better pictures. I've looked back at some of the pictures I've taken when I was drinking. I was like, what? Like these are like I thought they were at the moment like the best pictures. I'm like, pictures.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really kind of blurry.
yeah. And on your website, I was looking at one of your books. It's called Meditations for Gym Yogis. And I thought that maybe that could pair nicely with the Sober Travel Handbook. Has meditation helped you on your sober journey at all?
Yeah, especially yoga. I've done a lot of yoga. I started doing yoga when I was just a couple years sober, and I've been doing some kind of yoga practice for many years now. And I taught for quite a few years too, which I would like to do again, but kind of the traveling so much got in the way because I was always getting
Mhm.
substitutes for my classes. But I taught a whole lot for like 13 years. And it's a yeah, the yoga poses are and the breathing are help a lot with stress and anxiety. And the
Mhm.
spirituality is interesting, and a lot of it does correspond. If you follow a 12-step program, a lot of that goes kind of together. In fact, I have a book, a zine that's come out recently that's
Mhm.
about it kind of connects some of the yoga philosophy to sobriety.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I would encourage anyone to check out your website and look at either one of those books. You have more than those two books. There's several other books on your website, and there's a lot of good resources as well for vegan as well. Say, drinking isn't an issue for you, but there's some good information about being vegan there. Um, Definitely check it out. Is there anything else that we missed that you want to touch on about staying sober while you're traveling? I know we touched on quite a bit.
It's exciting. It's exciting if you. It can be scary at first, but it's really exciting to have the opportunity to try out many different things instead of just having your activities focus on the bar, drinking by the pool. Like it really can open up and expand your world if you go out of your comfort zone and try different things.
No, that's a good point. And like you left us with some very good tips. You know, if you're at social gatherings, have a drink in your hand, have a support person, look and plan before you go, have an exit strategy. These are all good ideas and tips and tricks. And there's a lot more in your book that I encourage people to check out if you're traveling, especially you're heading into the summer months. There's going to be a lot of traveling. And so pick up the book, look at it. It teaches you in different languages how to say, I do not drink alcohol, which I thought was great. I love that. Um, and I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. It was nice to have this conversation about traveling while sober, not having it be boring.
Oh yeah, and let me mention one more thing I forgot.
Yes.
I also write a lot for a website called The Sober Curator.
Sober
So if you
curator.
look at the
Okay.
sobercurator.com, and we put together a calendar on there that's about retreat and sober travel groups. So it has a lot of ideas if you are wanting to go on on a vacation with a group of other people who aren't drinking. So there's a lot of opportunities on there because there's more groups and companies that are doing that now that are organizing trips where people
Okay.
aren't going to drink.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes as well. So people can check that out, sobercurator.com. That's a great idea. Um, yeah, and try to build a little bit of a community before you go. Make sure you have a person that you can at least phone in an emergency, and so you're not like left kind of all by yourself, like what do I do in this situation? Especially if you're newly sober. It can be very challenging when you're newly sober, trying to navigate um, you know, airports and business, networking and all the things. And so, thank you for joining us today. And, the website to connect with Teresa, and you're on Instagram and Facebook as well. Is that correct?
I am.
Yes.
And
And those
LinkedIn.
links will, and LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and those links will be in the show notes. And anything else I missed? Anything other about you that we missed that you'd like
No,
to
but
add?
thanks for all the work you're doing as part of this mission to, yeah, normalize non-drinking as an option and help people with their mental health. It makes a difference what we're all doing here. So I
Oh,
appreciate that you're putting a lot of your time and energy into this.
well, thank you. I mean, I've felt that insecurity while traveling. um, even with a little bit of time being like, oh, I'm that person that doesn't drink. And, and the pressure, even at my age and the amount of sobriety I have, can be hard sometimes,
Mm.
because people want to ask, well, why don't you drink? It's like, I just don't. Like, it doesn't, I break out in handcuffs. I don't know what you want me to say.
Right.
Like, like,
They ever ask the people who order a beer, why do you drink? No, it's always the
yeah,
person who does it. Why don't you drink? And it
yeah,
shows you again how much that's the norm in so many cultures.
yeah. It's like, I think I wish we could just like let people just be non-drinkers for whatever their reason. Maybe it's health related. Maybe they just don't like it. Just
So many reasons.
yeah, just let it be. And that's why when I saw your book, I was like, that's a great idea. And you can carry it with you. That's a good resource. Like if you're at an event, you can keep it in like your bag or whatever, you
You
know.
can stick it in someone's face like a cross to a vampire. They're trying to make you drink.
I love that. I love that. That's a great idea. Do you drink? No, but here's a copy of a book I brought with.
I do that with I get a lot of PR people. I mean, I get so many things on my email where they're trying to tell me about some new wine spa or wine vacation. And I always write, I'm like, thanks, not for me, but why don't you check out my sober travel handbook? And I send them a link.
Do you have a business card? Like, does it say like sober travel writer on it?
I have several business cards. I'm kind of sketchy like that. But yeah, I do have one that has me as a sober travel. I think it's like sober travel writer and expert or consultant or something. Yeah, I have
I,
one that I have a couple that, yeah, I have a couple that have that.
I love that. I wonder if that does that ever where people still try to offer you a drink even after they know your title and
Well, probably not. But let me show you. I got these extra giant business cards here. I don't know if you saw in my book that I had the sober cat character, who's the non-binary sphinx that had an
yes.
song. Okay, so I made these giant oversized postcards with sober cat that I sometimes hand out as
Oh
a
my
business card.
God.
So see, there's sober cat. Uh,
Oh, I love him.
and then it has like info about me on the back. So I have different ones. This one's about sober cat's exit strategy and
Oh my God, I love that.
going on a coffee date with the dachshund instead of
Oh
going
my
to the
God.
bar.
And did you
So
paint all those?
yeah, I paint. So sometimes I give those out now as like a giant oversized business card. Like, okay, you get the point. No drinking, no drinking, no drinking.
No, but I think it's a fun, it's like, it's good that you're marketing yourself, but you're also like, here, you know, like you're putting your information out there, but it's always like, hey, this is like a boundary too, you
Yeah.
know?
And sober cat is cute, suitable for sticking on your refrigerator.
It is. Sober Cat is very cute. And I know the audience can't see, but Teresa has some beautiful paintings in her background. She's a wonderful painter. So yeah, the cards are wonderful. I love those.
Thank you.
Um, do you ever sell your paintings? Or do you
Yeah, I
ever?
do. I do.
That's fun though. I like
Little bit
that.
here and there.
And that must be something that you found through sobriety as well, I imagine, or was that before? Was that something like a lifelong kind of passion?
Right. I've written and painted since I was a little kid. It's like they say sometimes if you're not sure what you really like, think back on what you liked as a little kid. And for me, that's
Mm.
true. It was like painting, writing, music, cats, dinosaurs. I still like all those things, bugs. I still like all those things.
No, but that's fun though. But that's that. Look at like you sound like you've had a really fun career.
I
You
have.
know, and I think that's beautiful. Um, so thank you for sharing all your knowledge and your wisdom and insight and your sobriety journey with us. Do you have any other books you're planning in the future to write?
I am working on one right now called 100 Places to Visit Sober.
Oh yes,
So those are
yes.
places where either there's not a lot of alcohol, or the place is it's like a nature focus or a wellness focus, or one of my favorite things, the places that have to do with the historic battle against addiction, either on a personal level or a
Mm,
legislative level. So that'd be things like going to some of the like the AA founders' houses, which are national historic sites, or going
mm,
to like somewhere that had to do with prohibition or temperance, or
mm.
like Carrie Nation's house. So yeah, I'm working on that right now.
Oh, definitely let me know um when you have that because I have a spot on my I'm gonna put a link to your website in the spot I have in my link tree um, for like published works of my guests. So I'll add that in uh, whenever you add that book. So I will
Thank you.
definitely and I'll make a little announcement. I like to do that because I find so many of my guests have these amazing books and so many published works and we just don't hear about them.
Well,
you know.
there's so many writers though. There's so many of us writers out here, and so much stuff being published that you just can't keep up with it all.
No, no, but there's, we try to push it a little bit, get it in the hands of the people who can benefit from it. And yeah, so thank you again. You give us some good resources, and all the links to find Teresa will be in the show notes. And check out her website, teresabergen.com. And she has the sobercurator.com, and she's working on a book. She's a lot of fun. You seem like a very fun person to know. So thank you for joining us today. I
Well,
appreciate your
then,
time.
you're a lovely host.
Thank you so much. And as always, you can find me and the Collar Cat podcast on all major platforms. And check the show notes for our link tree where you can connect with the show, follow us on social media for the clips and updates. And please remember, until next time, you don't have to carry where you came from. Keep telling your story. You never know who you're going to help. And we will see you next time.